Hey, fellow tennis nerds. I hope all is well. Today I have an ATP Pro player and a YouTuber, Simon Freund from Sweden. We're not going to be speaking Swedish. We're going to be speaking English so you can listen to our conversation. Many of you probably follow Simon already. He is detailing his journey to chasing ATP points and playing futures and so on. Right now, he's actually in Portugal playing 25K. He's in the qualifying final tomorrow, if I'm correct. So, how are you today, Simon?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, just got through the semifinals or the second match of qualies today, so obviously in a good mood so far. Then getting ready for the next match, and doubles also starting tomorrow.
Who is your doubles partner this time?
I'm playing together with a Danish guy, Johannes Ingelsen. We've actually played a couple tournaments together lately, and we're gonna try to make a little push together. We're actually hoping to get into a challenger next week, so we're kind of waiting to see. We should know in like 10, 20 minutes if we get in or not. But yeah, so I'm playing with Johannes here.
Yeah, it's always good to play with someone you know, right? Have you played a lot with people you don't know? Like it's like you go to a place and you have to just make it up as you go.
Yeah, it's been a lot like that for sure. Obviously, like the week before, you try to find a partner, and obviously, like most people, I probably know, but not necessarily that I've played with them before. But I've gotten to the point where I really want to like prioritize playing with good partners every week. Whereas before it might have been like a little more, yeah, just like playing with a good friend, like having some fun out there. But now it's
Yeah.
more, really prioritizing good partners for sure.
What do you enjoy most? Like it's singles or doubles? Like where do you want to put your focus? Still singles, I guess, but doubles is a pretty good backup.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've always really loved playing doubles. I always loved like the whole tactical aspect of it all, and like the just trying to find like different ways and working together and everything, because I feel like that is just a bigger aspect when it comes to doubles compared to singles more. There's more like tactical opportunities and such. But I obviously enjoy singles a lot, and the last couple of years, because I've had some like injury issues and stuff, it's kind of naturally just been that I've had more success in doubles, as it's been a little easier like on the body just playing doubles. And then as I haven't played too many tournaments, it's just been like I still managed to perform pretty well in doubles and maintain my ranking there.
Yeah, it's good. And it's always a good backup. Like if the singles don't work out, like you get maybe too many injuries or it's frustrating, it's always good to play doubles. Like there's a lot of players doing that and doubles is actually at least bringing partly some money, but also when people are getting interested. I think you could maybe do more marketing for doubles. Would you agree with that? That you think sometimes doubles is like undersold as a product to watch as well?
Yeah, for sure. I really think that's something, as you're mentioning, that's growing. I feel like the tournaments haven't been too good at maybe like marketing the doubles matches and stuff. And I feel like a lot of people that watch doubles never really understand like the pace of play and that there's so much going on. And I feel like that's, as in like most sports, that you might have to learn a little bit more about like the tactical aspects of it. And once you get into that, I feel like there's just a lot of depth in the doubles game that's could be very intriguing for a lot of people for sure.
How are the conditions now in Portugal? Like, I guess on the futures tour from the players I talk to play actively on the futures, it's like it's a bit up and down. You know, you have to be a bit open-minded on what kind of accommodation you can get, like what are the courts like and stuff. Like, where is it? How has it been overall in your kind of playing career? But and how is it like right now for you over there?
So yeah, for sure, it's been a good mix of facilities and organizations and such. But right now, so like when it just comes to this tournament, I'm in Portugal right now, and especially in Europe, when you play especially $25,000 tournaments, the organization really goes up a notch, and like the quality of usually the facility and such is a lot better. But when you play the 15Ks in different areas, like it could really be very high and low, for sure. Like it could be, you know, practice balls that you can't even see the logo. And that's like the only thing you have to choose between. And like some courts that are just completely different and stuff like that. So it's a lot of different things. And I actually had a conversation like just recently about this. Like it is pretty fascinating in a way that they don't have, like a set standard in a way, like set rules that at least some kind of like universal on a professional tennis circuit, that you need to have these kind of like standards at least to like the courts or like the balls and stuff like that. And yeah, I remember I was playing like a $15,000 tournament in Tunisia, and I can't remember exactly what balls it was. I don't know if I should mention it, maybe it's bad, but and I remember the balls just kept popping. Like, like it was insane. Like every match, I probably had like two, three balls popping. And it was the same thing, like all matches. It was like, yeah, and it's just kind of crazy, that literally the balls are just dying
Yeah.
constantly, and yeah, it's just it's been some special conditions for sure.
Do you think like balls overall, like there's been a lot of complaints about balls, like the changing of the balls for every tournament, like among the high ranked ATP players as well, but also like quality of balls after COVID. I've noticed like it feels like it's gone down a bit. Like there's less quality control. Maybe it was for a time. Maybe it's better now. But like I get a lot of so balls. Like if I buy a box or get a box from some sponsor, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know exactly like the ins and outs of the ball quality and like production and stuff. Maybe it's something like on the factory end that they maybe started like changing up the production focus, I guess. But I guess there's also been like a conversation the last couple of years in the whole tennis sphere, the fact that they're trying to slow down the game, like with like surfaces and maybe now with balls, like making heavier balls, I believe, or lighter balls.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if, but like making them slower at least. And like I wouldn't say I've noticed, or I mean, I guess I've noticed it like very clearly with our like RS balls, if you know,
Yeah.
like Robin Soderling's balls. Like obviously they're very present in Swedish tennis as we use those for the Swedish league and all like local tournaments and stuff. And those balls are for sure a lot slower compared to maybe previous balls that I've played with throughout my career. So that's something like that you notice. But then obviously in Sweden, the majority of conditions are faster, I would say, as you play a lot indoors. So then maybe you don't notice the aspect as much. But certainly like now I'm playing in Portugal here with like pretty bouncy courts, so it's almost like clay tennis, and it's certainly a big like in qualities, for example, you don't change balls. So like when they start getting used up a little bit, like it's complete different ball game, the first couple games to the 10th game of the match. And yeah, it's for sure getting slower out there.
Yeah. And the courts, hard court, right?
Yeah, it's hardcore. But it's like I think they pretty recently surfaced. I don't know what it is, but like it's just very bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Portugal as well has a tendency to be kind of like lively with the courts. So naturally, like when you watch people play here, and me myself included, like because of the bounce, like people naturally like are kind of forced to wait for the ball more to like really make sure to grip the ball and control it. So naturally, like the pace of play is like further behind the baseline. So it's very similar to like clay court tennis when it's like a lot of counter punching and stuff like that in order to create stuff.
So you have to be very patient, kind of, and like just keep grinding.
Yeah, for sure. And it's actually something like talking about the ball quality. Like these balls we're playing with the Wills like Roland Garros balls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
They're
once
very
they start
bouncy those,
getting
I think, as well. So
sorry.
aren't they, those balls pretty bouncy, if I remember correctly as
I
well?
think so, but the thing is that they lose the hair. When they lose
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hair,
The
they're
fluff
kind of
goes. Yeah.
difficult. Yeah, they fluff like so it's kind of difficult to control it once they start getting a little used. And with the little bouncy courts and stuff, like there's a lot of double faults on these courts. I can assure you that. And yeah, I just think like the more they go, it just gets harder and harder to control the ball, like, grip the ball, really.
Yeah, it must be tough. Like, and also always adjusting. Like for your game, what do you think? What do you play your best tennis on? Is it like kind of Swedish indoor courts, like the Good to Great? I saw you play the recently tournament there, or is it more slow clay you like? Where do you think you shine the most?
I don't know, like it's been a thing that I've thought about lately. Like after my college years, I used to always just enjoy like playing in hard court outdoors because that was just natural that I played a lot there. But I actually remember that at the start of my career, I really enjoyed playing green clay in the US because
The
I felt
hard
like that
clay,
was
right?
a perfect mix of like a little slower, but you can still kind of take the ball early and kind of play. Like I really like to come forward to the net a lot, and I feel like I got a lot more opportunities on green clay compared to red clay, and but still it wasn't like crazy fast. It was just like serve and nothing. So
Yeah,
maybe green clay would be my answer there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like we have like one like in Marbella where I live. Like there's a few green clay courts, but they're on really high altitudes. So then you have that
Okay.
altitude bounciness as well. That's a bit annoying. Otherwise, the courts
Yeah.
are fine. But it's just like when you're playing on high altitude, you really need special balls. Otherwise, the ball just goes all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So your travel schedule right now, is it like, okay, Portugal, do you already have plans where to play next? And like how far do you plan your tournaments in advance? Like can you do that as on like futures level, like, or it's how does it work
I th
for you?
I think it's very important to try to set a schedule, like set a plan with weeks and like and tournament weeks and home weeks and practice weeks. For me, like I've had a kind of difficult the past 2 years. Like it's been very hard for me to plan because of injuries. So my schedule has constantly changed. And like in hindsight, I feel like I've been a little bad with like being a little too optimistic about my schedule. So like I planned a little too much, even though my body has been a little 50-50 and then ends up just being more chaos than needed. But when it comes to right now, at least, like I'm working very closely with my like coordinator who kind of helps me coordinate my whole tennis career pretty much. And so we have a baseline schedule of tournaments, practice weeks, and everything. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier here, like we're waiting to hear back regarding a challenger, and then depending on what happens there, we've talked about like just recently that we need to make a decision today or tomorrow, or latest tomorrow actually, how we're gonna do with tournaments because we're kind of just figuring out if we're gonna go to the States or not for all of November, and it kind of depends on how like if we get into this tournament, then we're gonna play one more week here in Europe, and then it's gonna be then we're gonna miss out on the first week of the US because you need a couple of days to adjust. So so it kind of depends like week to week to say, and especially with a ranking like this, like, it is difficult to plan it out for sure. But I think it's just very important to set like a baseline schedule and then constantly just trying to yeah make it better as much as possible.
Yeah, that's probably good. Like the good stuff. I mean, you always have to plan and then plan also for the uneventuals, like the stuff that just happens, right? I mean, like you don't obviously know how far you will go in a tournament, so you need to always have like plan A, plan B, plan C, maybe. And
Yeah,
then with injuries, that's an extra complexity. Like, okay, I can't play in 2 or 3 weeks because now I have to go rehab, and that's
yeah,
that's tough. Like on tennis, tennis bodies are easily breaking down. It's so much strain on them, right?
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so it makes sense to have some rough schedule. Is there like a good amount of futures like what are you futures you're gonna play in the US that's like kind of a swing in November that you're going for?
Yes, but there's also a couple of challengers. Right now my doubles ranking is kind of like it's not really good enough, to be honest. But because I have my partner, the Danish guy, we're gonna try to play a couple tournaments together. And also during November they have a good mix of challengers, 25Ks and 15Ks, all in the States. So we kind of know that we can always try for the challenger, and if we don't get in, we can always go play the 25K. So we just feel like it's a very good mix there. Yeah, no matter what happens, obviously like the logistics needs to be figured out, but no matter what happens, we have a very good opportunity there to try to make the most out of every week, for sure. So that's kind of the main idea behind it.
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds like a plan. How tough has it been? Like you've recently made a switch to Stiga, which is on your cap there as well. Like
Oh yeah.
and you're like their main ambassador, playing with the new racket. Like how big of a shift has that been for you when you're actually competing or actively on the circuit?
Um, I feel like it's been mainly positive. Like, I mean, obviously, because I've been injured, I haven't been able to play as much. So it's like, it's a little difficult, to know your exact level and stuff. But just when it comes to more confidence wise and equipment, I'm very happy with the racket. Like, it really has been something that I've kind of been looking for. It's a very good mix between, like, I've played with the blade, for a long time. And, with the blade, I feel like it has like a solid amount of control and I can really like dictate where I want to put the ball, but I've been lacking a bit of pace on the ball, and me not being the necessarily biggest guy on the tour. I've really been looking for some extra pace on the racket, but most rackets that I've tried out, like I don't know, like head speed rackets and I don't know, Babolat Aero Pro and different things. A lot of those, like I just feel like I lose, like I get more speed or power for sure, but I just lose a lot of control. And obviously, me coming from the blade, I like maybe I'm very picky with it. But yeah, it's just been a tough transition. Like I've been trying rackets back and forth the past like maybe year and a half, 2 years almost, but just never really found the right fit. But with the Stiga racket, I feel like they've done a very good job of kind of making it like a bigger sweet spot, which helps me a lot when it comes to like acceleration at the racket. So even though I get more speed and pace on the ball, I still feel like I can make good contact consistently, which kind of I feel like that adds the whole confidence factor to it that I can accelerate towards my target like confidently. So it kind of gives me that good mix between the both that I've been looking for, to be honest.
That's great. Yeah, I know. I know it's tough. It's so many people, like pros as well, like trying to find maybe a little bit more power these days because like tennis is faster, it's more demanding. Like there's more pace and spin on the ball generally. So people want more. Always on the tour, like they want to either go down in tension, they want to change the string a bit, or they are even open to test changing rackets. And we've seen more and more, I would say, switches in the last few years. Because people are always looking for how can I get everybody's pretty fit and going to injury rehab, going to the gym, doing all that stuff that maybe they didn't do so much in the 90s, for example. But then, like, how can we add that, like a Formula One team? How do you add an extra, miles per hour on your serve or something? So the racket then comes
Yeah.
into play or the setup.
Yeah, it's like you say, like with the evolution of the game, like it's constantly being pushed and everybody's improving and it's just as it's never going to reach its peak, obviously, but as it's getting more and more competitive, I feel like it's just more priorities for every one of those like small inches. And as we talked about before, like obviously the speed of play or like the ball quality and stuff like that is for sure a factor also, I think, to that transition. As you see, the majority of the guys on tour right now are like all pretty big hitters, but also with like pretty good like spin and like acceleration on the ball and generally like they've been moving more and more towards those 100 square
Yeah.
rackets and stuff like that compared to maybe previously when it's been like where everybody wanted to play with a Federer like 90 square and like
Yeah.
tiny sweet spot and stuff like that. But it's just I just feel like it's so difficult to play with that at this pace, you know.
Yeah. No, you can't play. I mean, like, there are a few players who can play like a Karatsev uses like a 95 or whatever, because he hits the
Yeah.
ball like perfectly spot on and the calves of I don't know what. But it's even like most players who've been in the game for a while, they are experimenting to try to get a bit more pop. So it makes sense. Do you add any weight to your racket, or you play it like in the way it comes from the factory?
Yeah, so at the start I actually just play with the way it was. Like even though it's only 300 grams actually, but it has like pretty front heavy, so it's 32 and a half, I think, the balance wise.
Yeah.
And when I started playing with it, I was mainly playing outdoors, and it was like very good actually for clay court tennis. And I actually experimented with going down a lot in tension. So I think I was playing with like 20 kilos, or like something like that when I was playing on clay. But I constantly felt like I was making such good contact and good acceleration that I could, yeah, control it with that tension. But as I've transitioned more into or like played under it indoors and stuff, I've had to adjust a little bit with the weight. So I right now the main thing that I've done is I've just switched the grip to a leather grip. So I think it's added like 7 grams or something
Yeah.
like that to it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And it's not a lot, but I feel like it helps me a little bit. Maybe it's mental. I don't know how big that percentage is, but I just feel like I have a little more ability to like make small adjustments, like snap it over a little bit and stuff like that. And that's mainly what I've been doing right now. I experimented a little bit with like adding weights on the rackets and stuff, but because it's so front heavy from the start, it was kind of difficult for me to add there because I felt like the swing weight was just too much. But I might experiment a little bit more with maybe adding a little more on the grip, maybe in the middle or something like that, just to kind of get a little more weight on it. But when it comes to the swing weight, I'm actually pretty happy with it right now, and yeah, I don't know exactly where it is with those 7 grams, but yeah, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, swing rates are, I mean, generally going down as well. Like players are swinging faster, so having these like 350, 360 swing rates. I mean, some pros are still playing with them, but it's getting rare, I would say. Like, from people who are need have more whippy racket head speeds and play a little bit of a like a kind of curious technique, or even like Fritz who plays pretty light, but then has so much arm rotation, like so much speed in the arm, like a whippy arm. So it makes
Yeah,
sense.
for
What
sure.
strings are you using?
So right now I'm using the RS Paris strings,
Yeah.
so they kind of like spinny strings, I would say. And yeah, like yeah, they work well for me. And just to kind of add on what you mentioned there with like the, I feel like more and more, as you say, like a lot of pros that I've been around, like a practice with, like with Sinner, for example, and stuff, and I feel like they're starting to move down a little bit in their swing weight. I feel like they've had higher, but like I feel like they're constantly experimenting with how much they can lower it just to give them more pace while still maintaining the same kind of speed and like quality of balls. And yeah, it's like you say, I constantly think that the equipment is evolving so much right now with like, I don't know, the frames and stuff like that and the pace of play and everything. But yeah, we're really seeing a big shift towards maybe bigger sweet spots, like bigger racket heads, and just trying to make it easier out there. That's for sure like one thing that's been my biggest feeling with the Stiga racket, like moving from 98 to 100. I just feel like it kind of makes tennis a little bit easier in a way. Like it just feels a little easier, like playing tennis. It just, yeah, I'll take
Yeah,
it.
you know, I mean that makes 100% sense. Like you need it. You need a little bit of help. Like out in the corners, if you're defending, like I think usually when people attack the ball, like they play aggressive, you know, or they at the net, like it's fine to have a smaller head size because you are in control. But as soon as you have to defend and use, you know, move around like from side to side and stuff, like then that extra square inch here and there, it makes a big difference because you don't have to have that super clean contact on every shot, you know.
Yeah, so right now, like playing outdoors and I don't know, like right now I'm actually stringing 23 kilos this tournament right now. And yeah, when I was playing in fall and indoors, I was stringing 23 as well. And yeah, yeah, 23 is usually like 22 and a half, 23 has usually been the main.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's my favorite tension as well. Side note, but when you are now you're also like a YouTuber, right? So you're playing actively, combining it with a YouTube channel, documenting your journey. How has that kind of like made your tennis experience? Like, how has it changed it? Like, do you feel like you're more relaxed playing because you have a little bit of more financial incentive or a bit of a thing on the side that you can keep growing because people are interested in you and the way you're actually very good at that kind of commenting on the match and you're all very honest with which I think people really like. Has that helped you to relax or is it putting extra pressure on you, for example, when you're playing?
Well, thank you first for the compliment. But I think it's very much a mix of both. Like it's for sure the time constraint has been like a tough thing, you know, as you probably know better than most people, like that it takes a lot of time to edit videos and stuff like that and plan it out. And it's very fun in a way to learn new things. I feel like I'm learning something new every day as I'm trying to figure this this kind of career out. But the most rewarding thing is for sure been like the encouragement I'm getting from a lot of people, and I've been very surprised in a way by how like nice and encouraging a lot of people are, and you know, just constantly getting a lot of like nice messages, people trying out the pancake serve especially, and just like having fun with tennis and just kind of using that as a little fuel and inspiration has been so rewarding for me. And I mean, I still want to say that I'm very much a beginner in that whole process. I feel like I've been a little lucky with getting like an initial growth, just to kind of gets like build a little initial fan base, but then I still very much feel like I'm trying to figure out my concept and like how to do it. Because as yeah, as you know, like it takes so much time and you maybe have the ambition that you want to make it like, oh, I'm gonna make like a Netflix documentary about these coming days training, and then you end up sitting there with like 30, 40 videos that you have no idea where they're from, and, and just all scrambles there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like people don't realize usually like how much editing time is also like just figuring out what's the storyline, like what am I trying to tell, and then also how many cuts you have to do because like you don't want to bore people to death. Like, and when you do a lot
Yeah.
of footage, obviously you're gonna have some boring stuff. You want to have it like pretty whippy and like for example, Felix Mishker is good at that. I know you play doubles as well, and he has really found like a good system. You also seem to have a very good system. I actually asked him as well, like, how do your opponents when you come there, you bring your tripod or like your fence mount, whatever, and do you always have to ask them to, can I record or do they know that you're already recording or how does it work for you?
I they probably know most of the time because I like the and but every match I always make sure to ask them, and like I would say 99% of the people, they kind of laugh at me like who would ever say no, pretty much. But then I still feel like I have the responsibility to always ask them. And if somebody says no, like there's not much I can do. Like I just have to respect it. But what most people say obviously is like it's kind of difficult to try to be a professional athlete and not want to be recorded if you say like I don't know. But for me, kind of how the whole journey started was that I was playing tournaments and I remember it was just kind of sad in a way, at a lot of futures event, there's not necessarily too many people watching there, like spectators. And I remember obviously like with the evolution of tennis, like the level of tennis, like a futures event is like has really drastically gone up, I want to say, just for me
100%.
playing like right before COVID and then post COVID. And I just remember thinking like in these tournaments, like it's kind of sad in a way that like all this great tennis and like two people are watching it. So that was kind of initially like just trying to find a little more like inspiration, and I wanted to showcase like other people's matches and tournaments and points and stuff like that. That's actually like one of my initial videos, I think, in my channel was when I just recorded four of my best friends playing like a doubles match in a club tournament. And those are all like former D1 college players, so they're all like very high level tennis players. And I remember I was just put up my camera and then I thought it was such a good match that I ended up like cutting it together and posted it on YouTube. And like I think over like 150,000 people has watched it so far. And yeah, it's just a lot of great tennis being played there, but I feel like it's just under marketed maybe or just like not shown enough. And yeah, I think it's fun out there.
No, I completely agree. I think like there's a huge marketing problem in tennis, and I'm gonna be you talking about that probably like until until they stop me and from ATP. But it's like or from the ITF because like we had a challenger in Malaga now, like this week. My friend Nikki was stringing, using done running the stringing service, and there was like no marketing at all. Like this is a challenger. You have Batista
Yeah,
Agut, you had
yeah,
the Carballes Baena, Benoit Paire, like pretty famous players, but like overall very good level and hardly no people, and I know why there were no people because I didn't even know this tournament existed and I work in tennis. So for me,
yeah,
it's like this, it's
yeah,
crazy. Like, how can you arrange a tournament and not do any advertising? And also, like,
yeah,
even for, I mean, same with futures, record like center court, have a stream from center court, have a stream from the first two courts or something, it's not that's cheap technology, and do
yeah,
some like marketing for the event. Like, yeah, you're gonna see some great players. We have players from all over the world competing, and there's this money on stake. You can bring audience there and you can have like cheap entry fees or whatever.
yeah.
And you have maybe some
No,
like a nice caterer or just like a hot dog stand, whatever, like some nice if they don't
yeah,
have a restaurant already, and you make it into a thing, and people will go there with their kids, and people who and there's a lot of people who play tennis, but they
yeah,
don't know that these events are being held a lot of the time. So then how are you going to watch it?
yeah, for sure. And yeah, just like following up on what you mentioned there, for me it was like so much about yeah like all these great points like just want to show them to someone. And it also like for me personally as a tennis player, like it's more fun doing a tweener if somebody saw it, like it's not too
Yeah, yeah,
much
of
fun.
course.
So like it just kind of like encourages a little bit there. But as you mentioned, like at these tournaments, the fact that like it just feels like such an easy fix to maybe put a stream up and then you can pay a freelancer guy on Fiverr to like just make some highlights of it and just post reels every day of like the best points to constantly, just showcase like, yeah, you can if you come here and watch, like you can see all these crazy points, all the like I don't know, it's just good tennis being played overall. And as you say, like there's so much to do around it that isn't being done, to be honest.
Yeah, you get shocked like once you get started in the tennis, like even going to the ATP 250s. I went to a few this summer, and you're like the first couple of days in a 250. I might giving up. In a 250, it's like there's hardly no one there. It's just the coaches, me, and some media guys, and like okay, there's a few people in the crowds, but it's a well arranged event. There's food, there's everything. Like, and it's summer, so most people. I mean, there's super people that have like vacation, but I don't know. For me, it's confusing. I think the marketing is a little bit of a problem, like because I think the event is usually well organized for what it is, but it's
Yeah,
just like they don't put in enough work on like actually, hey, they don't have to pay a lot for it. It could be like Google AdWords, like €100 or flyers or whatever. I mean, like do something, social media, whatever. It's not.
yeah.
I don't even see
No,
some trying,
no, for sure. And I feel like it's, yeah. Now we're running into this subject. As you say, like we could probably talk about this forever, but just the fact that like every company nowadays, like if you don't do any advertising or marketing, like you pretty much are non-existent these days. And especially as a we're in like the entertainment industry. Literally like the whole thing that we're doing is based upon people knowing what we're doing and caring about what we're doing. So if there's any industry that should make like an extra effort in that whole sphere, it's for sure. It's for sure tennis.
Yeah, and also like selling like all the players have personal brands, so you can use that to create more storytelling around the product and like okay, especially like I think it would be great if more players had like YouTube channels like you do. I think that's a great thing because people get to see tennis from a different perspective, and I think actually it advertises tennis as a sport. Obviously, it's going to be like tennis nerds watching it, but you can also reach a bigger audience. Like Felix reaches a quite young, different demographic. I'm sure you do too. So I think there's like room there. I know it's a lot of work to do it, but hopefully it can inspire people to watch more tennis and also get to know players playing futures and challengers. Because like like you said, the level of tennis is super high. It's super
Yeah.
high on these events, and you can see as good of a tennis match as you do in the first rounds of an ATP 250. So, and it's very cheap. There are no like super expensive tickets, especially if you
But
live close.
it's like you say, I feel like it's just kind of going through that period of trying to modernize tennis a little bit in that sense. And right now, I almost want to say that like most organizers and stuff are kind of negative towards like filming matches and stuff like that. So it's like I don't know how you call it, but like it's not necessarily that accepted or like
Yeah.
encouraged. It's like it's for sure not encouraged, to do these things. And for me, like if I was a tournament organizer, like as you mentioned there, like it would be great for me if all these players are constantly posting pictures and promoting the event. And yeah, so it should always be the opposite. It should always be like, yeah, if you post on Instagram, you get free lunch or something like that for the players.
Yeah. 100%. And I think it's weird because it feels like you say, you almost get punished. Like I mean, I talked to Felix, he was also mentioning like, he's quite a marketing guy, he's quite pushy, so which is great. So he's trying to contact tournaments, create extra content or something interesting for Wimbledon or for wherever, Queens we talked about.
Yeah,
And it's the general feeling you get from the tournaments is that it's very old school traditional thinking. They're not thinking like, oh, what are the audience want to see, or how can we get more tickets sold, or how do we get out on social media. They just say no. They just have this kind of gut reaction that no, it's just hassle. It's
yeah,
seems
it's
strange to
absolutely,
me.
yeah, it's tricky. I guess I just haven't really figured out the whole business of tennis yet. Like, I don't know, maybe it's all based on like sports betting or something that as long as they get money from the sports betting companies, they're happy and don't really care about the rest of the spectators, I guess. I don't know. Maybe
No,
that's a
no, but
touchy,
it's weird.
touch.
Like, yeah, it's something you start thinking about. Like, I haven't been in tennis for ages, so in this kind of intense way. So then you start seeing it differently after you start traveling around and start seeing the tournaments, both futures, challengers, ATP, up to Grand Slams. You're starting to like, okay, who are the spectators? Who are the tournament directors? Where does the money come in? Who sponsor tennis and why? And why can they, what can they get and how can we get more sponsors? Because tennis needs more sponsors and is worthy of, I think, more attention as a sport in general. And that's not just me talking from
Yeah.
a tennis guy, but it's also actually from like what makes sense, I think.
Yeah, but it's like you say, like tennis is one of the most popular sports in the world. And I feel like it's very below par when it comes to utilizing that fan base. Like there's so many people that just play tennis for fun, and just encouraging that and inspiring them like is such like there's a huge value there for sure. But like I mean I guess that's a pretty touchy subject. I don't know if we're gonna go into that, but yeah, like I've kind of mentioned it, with the PTPA.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that's starting and that's coming out. That's for sure something that we need to have more like yeah, there's bargaining power on the player's perspective, but also just to put more pressure on the associations to evolve and like kind of modernize like the way it's working. And to me, I've done very, very below par like digging in the whole subject, but I just remember when I saw the, as you probably know, the player, what do you call it, like baseline fund or like baseline salary cap thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And to me, like obviously it's great. Like I have no idea about like all the work that's been going on behind the scenes, but to me it was almost more frustrating just seeing that because I feel like it's kind of fake in a way that it's like the amount of money that they guarantee for you unless you come up to that on your own is kind of uh, bad. Like she's pretty bad. Like 99% of the players should come up to those. I don't have the numbers in my head, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like 99% of the players should come up to that salary anyways, just playing the Grand Slams or playing a normal schedule. And if they don't, like the ATP would probably have to fill in like $1,000 or like five, I don't know, like barely anything. And so at the end of the day, like that whole program is pretty much nothing in my like my perspective of looking at it. And to me, what I was trying to, I don't know if you saw it, but I actually posted it like on Twitter, I believe, just a little thing about like obviously I have no idea about the backside of it all, like the cost and maintaining tournaments and stuff. But when it comes to the whole like the betting part of tennis, just the fact that there's so much money being placed on like futures tournaments and challenger tournaments and stuff like that, but pretty much zero of that revenue goes to the players. And I don't really know like how the laws of work and everything like that, but I just feel like something is like very wrong there. And I just ran into one of these contracts. I don't know the numbers exactly, but like, you know, with the ITF made a contract with Sports Radar, I believe, to sell all the
Yeah, yeah.
statistics and numbers and
Yeah,
stuff. So they can in essence sell it to betting companies, the way I understand it.
yeah.
And I don't know how many millions it was, but just in my head, I did like a super quick basic calculations of it all. And for me, I was like, yeah, if they just take 50% of that and split it with the players, then I counted it to that like pretty much every player with an ATP point could get like $10,000 a year or something like that. And that's if they only split like half of that money. And yeah, most of my like colleagues out here, like $10,000 goes a long way when it comes to travel costs and stuff like that for sure. And but yeah, obviously don't know the full story where all that money goes and stuff like that. But
No, but it's a good discussion to have because I think like there needs to be some transparency from the AT because I also felt like when they bring out an initiative like that, you want it to be if it's not a huge thing, it's almost like not worth it. You know what I mean? Like because
yeah,
I understand that because the frustration is then like if you do just like okay we have this enormous problem in tennis with the prize funds being so low and players struggling and you know it's tennis is a rough sport. You need to travel, you need to be your own entrepreneur and pay for coaches, physio, everything, right? It's like even stringing. So
yeah,
it's one of those sports where you're like you're quite alone, you know, a lot of time. And then so they needed kind of like a serious initiative and it felt like yeah we hear it's like a 10% improvement or whatever, you know, and you're like then you rather not do anything at all, like then you wait one more year and you come up with some big changes, right? Because it feels it's almost like you know laughing at the faces of the players, like say oh we did this, look at us, you know.
yeah. And to me, like as I'm getting into this like YouTube stuff and like with partnerships and different ambassadorships and stuff like that, I really do find it crazy the thing that you mentioned there with like as tennis players, you have to do so much on your own in order to do your work, I guess, when it comes to travel and hotels and booking and talking about like mainly on the ITF circuit, like future circuit here. But it kind of fascinates me the fact that like ITF hasn't struck like a partnership with I don't know, like a big hotel chain or something like that. Or maybe you have to structure it so like in Europe, the official partner of ITF tournaments are, I don't know, some big hotel company. And then you just have it naturally. It's like all tennis players have some kind of discount there or something like that. And
Yeah.
obviously you have all these pro tournaments that have all these official hotels. But the way I understand it is that at the end of the day, it's all up to the tournament organizers to fix a hotel or a player's hotel or something like that. And when it just becomes every like there's no real like hierarchy or like no main guy that's kind of like just dictating how it should be. And unless you have that, I feel like it's very hard to make any improvements or any like I don't know benefits in a way because I feel like you have so much more bargaining power. Because obviously, like as a hotel chain, like it's amazing for you to strike a deal with ITF so you can have all these, you know, hundreds of tennis players like customers coming to your turn, like your hotel resorts every week, like how to do it in like Tunisia and Monastir and different things. So to me, I just feel like there's so much there that you could
Yeah.
do something with that's just like not done, because at the end of the day, like where it really helps is the players, maybe. Uh, and maybe that's not the priority, I guess, when it comes to the, I don't know, the whole business of it.
Yeah, I don't understand because you without the players, there's nothing, right? So
Yeah.
for me, it's like the product is the players, right? The product is the tennis being played by the players,
Yeah.
and the product, even a mark. If you're, I mean, I'm a marketing guy more than a tennis player, but it's like when you need to market the personal brands of the players. I mean, that's what I mean. ATP tries it on like the top 10 or the top 20, 30, but
Yeah.
then they stop. Like, but it's like that's like they're trying to push the same players over and over again. You know, they stay within that top 30 group and doing a decent job of that. You know, with fun games and fun videos, whatever. But you can do. I think you can do a lot more, and I think you can kind of also do, for example, like with the Breakpoint Netflix thing. I think more people would have liked to see like a break point, like a breaking point of playing on the ITF tour,
Yeah.
because like that's more fun. I know there was a French documentary like maybe 10 years ago where it was like from the Challenger Tour and you saw players how it was for like a year to live on the future Challenger Tour. And that's more interesting because like the glamour and when things are not like super honest and authentic, it looks like everybody's super glamorous life and blah blah blah. And then you can go and like look at Kasatkina's and her like wife's channel, like
Yeah.
and they are like, oh, I'm exhausted. There's no tax. It's like this. The reality of even being a top 10 WTA player is quite different from sometimes what you put on Breakpoint.
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, like I feel like there's a different kind of level of authenticity maybe there to just see the vulnerability of players, like just to me see the more human side compared to, seeing, like I think it all just stems from like the relatability in a way. Because obviously, like I think the top 10 players are like it's really cool to watch the top 10 players, but it's very hard for, as a normal person to, like associate with like, yeah, flying private jets to tournaments and stuff like that. But as you mentioned, when you're watching ITF, like it's more of an everyday person, that's going like struggling with, I don't know, rent or housing or tournaments and travel and logistics. Like it's more relatable. Just like, I don't know, someone following like their ambitions as like someone else in their work life doing the same thing. And I think like initially with my channel, that was kind of the idea behind it, to try to make more of like a documenting my journey. But as you know, like as time progressed, like it's been kind of difficult to showcase all that, like in vlogging and stuff. I've kind of had to, as I'm doing everything on my own, it's just kind of, I've had to, find a way that it
Yeah.
works, I guess, for right now. But I've seen, you might know about it. It's called like Backstage Tennis, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the guy on Instagram. Like I really enjoy his stuff. So he's posted a few like videos, maybe with like Massetti when he was on like the Challenger Tour. Like this Instagram reel where they're showing, after he lost a match, how his coach, or he won a match, and then his coach like goes into him and like, I think what you did there was kind of like disrespectful and stuff like that. And like, yeah, tomorrow you're gonna warm up without us, just to see how privileged you are to be like to have coaches around you. And to me, that video just felt so real, like in a way, like it was just so like authentic. The guy is just in the background, and you're just watching the life of the tennis player and his coach, and like how tough it is sometimes, and maybe happy sometimes. And yeah, it's just pretty cool, like insight to it.
Yeah, I think people love that more because like and that's I think the trend. But at least my personal life, like I've gone pretty heavily from watching like more Netflix before. Not that I watch a lot because I don't have that much time, but to actually watching YouTubers. Not tennis only, but obviously everything that I like. And it's you can find more natural, organic takes on everything, and like really in depth, like personal stories, which is great. Like that's what you wanted maybe from other things. I mean, sometimes you want watch an overproduced movie or a very well produced, like a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
But some of these series and talk shows and stuff, it's so produced and like fakeish that it's like it's not a good product anymore. I think for the world we live in today, it feels like dated to me at least.
Yeah. But yeah, just circling back to the financial side of tennis. I really think, as you mentioned, that it needs to be more transparency of like how the whole business as a tennis player actually works. Because right now I just feel like it's very it's very tricky as like a young tennis player coming up, that you just have to figure out so much stuff on your own. And I've talked about this a lot, like when it comes to like on a national level. I've kind of been like a huge advocate, I want to say, like towards the Swedish Tennis Federation, that there's not really any info. Like, I'm not saying that you need to give me a bag of cash every year, but I'm just saying more like, let's say I have some injury issues or I need a fitness coach. It's a very tough process, as a 20-year-old to try to like find the best fitness coach. Like I have no idea like what's good or bad, but just that you have a federation that's literally like the go-to spot. Like if you need some help with like, all right, here's a recommendation of the tennis federation's partnered fitness coaches. So you're like, or something like that, you just go there, and so then you at least can maybe, all right, here's 3 guys that the tennis federation work with or like partner with. Just those kind of things, and maybe like maybe a guideline or fact sheet about like how much it costs to play professional tennis on average
Yeah.
or something like that, like the tournament cost. And like that's usually something that people just have to learn the hard way, I guess. And yeah, there's those things. And I feel like obviously on a bigger scale, like the ITF, and like maybe they have a certain responsibility. I feel like that you could just, I don't know, you could just help the players a lot, just to give that insight, because they obviously sit on the knowledge, for sure.
Yeah, I think more tools. Like the way you see it from outside is like just guides, whatever, like some help, from the local federations. I think tennis is just like a little bit of a mess organizationally, because it's like, besides, you have the ITF, which seems so big that it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's just my feeling, and like I played ITFs, I've been to ITF events, and it's like it feels completely different every event. They have some ref they locally, and that's it. It's not like, it doesn't feel like a part of a bigger organization, because the ITF is huge. It's like,
Yeah.
uh, but also from the website, there's not that much info. It feels, I mean, it feels a little bit old fashioned, And then besides the ITF, then you have ATP, which is completely different. Then you have WTA, completely different. Then you have the Grand Slams, also completely different. So it's like, as a player living in this organism where you need to book your own travel, have like pay for the coach, maybe change something, have talk with sponsors on your own, and most players can't have an agent, it's not that
Yeah.
common. If you look at the like top 1,000 players, like it's tough. Then you're like, you're starting there, especially like as a young person, maybe if you don't have like a good family figure who's dealing with everything. Like, where do you go? What do you do? Like, what do you need to be a pro? Maybe you're super talented, but you don't really have the means or the knowledge to go pro. I think it's
Yeah.
it's a thing.
And exactly. And I really feel like me kind of going into the tennis social media sphere, because I feel like there's not, like with tennis brother like Felix, for example, like he's been very helpful. Like I've chatted to him, and like he's helped me out with some tips and tricks like from his experience. But that it's like unmarked territory or like untraveled territory constantly. And as you mentioned, like I really feel like there's too much of that when it doesn't necessarily need to be in the tennis like entrepreneurship, like tennis player, like startup person, that you just have so much uncertainties and like that you just don't know about, that you just need to, I don't know, that could be so helpful. Like you could save so much time, but just having kind of someone to turn to a little bit, or yeah, just getting some help there for sure.
Yeah, like a support. I mean, there's not like, if you look at, for example, Sweden and the Swedish Tennis Federation, which I'm not super familiar with everything, but it's like just having like a support person or support, administration for there are not that many Swedish ATP pros, or
No.
WTA pros, right? So there's not endless of pro players, but just having some support, like a person to turn to, I'm in this situation, how can I get some help? And I think it would be great, and I think it would be very appreciated, like, or just,
Yeah.
some guidelines, whatever.
No, and yeah, I can be honest with it. When it comes to the Swedish Federation, I feel like there's just a lot of room for improvement. Just myself, like I've been very disappointed in kind of how they've approached and like treated a lot of the professional players. Obviously, me like knowing pretty much every active Swedish tennis player, everybody talks about the same experience. And just for example, like I've kind of like played professionally since 2019, and ever since then, I've been amongst like the top 5 Swedish tennis players at least. And during this whole period, I haven't gotten a single like text or message or try to like, let's organize something, travel together. I don't know, nothing from the federation. And for me, like I don't know like where they're obviously they have other priorities, like you have clubs, you have juniors coming up and different things. But to me, I feel like at the end of the day, there's some kind of red lining between it all, like between the whole like business of tennis or like the whole sphere of tennis, that you have like the professional players maybe at the peak of it all. And then you have like, I don't know, amateurs or maybe juniors at clubs that are like at the bottom. And in order to just tailor to the whole thing, not that anybody's more valuable than the other, it's just everybody plays their part in the whole ecosystem. And to me, I just feel like it's been a very weird structure of it all, that it's almost like you as a professional player in Sweden, like one of the full-time, even though maybe like sure we're not like super highly ranked, but I still feel like when it comes to Swedish tennis, we're still the biggest names out there, like for Swedish tennis players. And to me, like there's a big value there for like the local players and like club level and like how you can use that into inspiring the younger people because you're actually present. And that's something that I've noticed, especially like with my TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. Like I've had a lot of parents on my local club and stuff that talk to me, like, or the kids come up and I talk to them, and like that I'm like to them, I'm almost more important than like Djokovic or someone like that because I'm actually real in a way. And like the way I understand it is the fact that yeah, like Djokovic and those they kind of seem, superhuman, like they're no different from like Superman or like, those kind of things because they're just so, I don't know, far away to say.
Yeah.
But to me, because I can like constantly be around them, I feel like we could do so much more like locally and stuff like that. And I just feel like that's something that's really being underused, to be honest. And I feel like it's almost just negative on both ways because obviously like as a professional tennis player, you kind of just end up feeling unwanted in a way.
Yeah.
So there's probably a lot of players, obviously with paddle coming up. Like I've seen so many of my friends growing up that have all been extremely good tennis players and good people and role models that have kind of quickly jumped ship as soon as a new opportunity presented itself. And yeah, I don't know, like the work life similarities to it, but it just kind of shows something, when you're working at one place and as soon as a new opportunity shows up, you're just jumping ship straight away. It probably shows something about the your original like job giver, like that you're not maybe feeling as valued there as you think you should be.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, and it's great to hear your story from because I haven't lived in Sweden for a long time, but I do know the complaints, and I think there's what like reason Swedish tennis is where it is partly because of lack of these types of initiatives. That's my feeling, at least. I might be wrong, but it's like, Swedish tennis, you have like a heyday, 80s, 90s, whatever, Robin, but it's been a bit of a slump. But it's mainly because I think there's a big lack of initiatives. Like there's not enough tournaments, there's not enough push. You don't get any advertising, like in terms of like, for example, like if you want to have inspire young kids to play tennis, like, oh, we're gonna have a special event that Simon's gonna, you can follow his practice with Elias Ymer, or something, right? So that's a live practice. You can just pay like a cheap entry fee or whatever, a coffee or something, and you have the kids watching your practice, and then you have like a quick chat afterwards, like a 30-minute Q&A. There's so many things you can do just to build like that vibe, like, okay, now and Simon is going to Portugal and Elias is going here, blah blah blah. These very easy opportunities on club level, on the local level, that you can push the sport. So you have, because like you said, if you're a like top 5 top 10 player in the country, that's a role model for other kids, juniors growing up in that same country. And you look at like a country like Italy, which is doing really well, is because they've been pushing like that. They've done like loads of ITFs, loads of tournaments, tournaments below that level, like local tournaments. And now, and also they push heavily, like organizationally, they were like invested in the ATP. They have people everywhere there. And look at Italian tennis is doing well because they've been really so active, So if you're not active and not doing events, tournaments and stuff, you're never going to have good players. Like it's just, then it's just a fluke.
Yeah, for sure. And I really think that's kind of the chicken and the egg kind of
Yeah,
like paradox there. Like obviously like you want it to be that like in the like in the glory days, like let's say you're 10 in Sweden and you're 10 in the world, or like top 3 in the world. I don't know. And like obviously I wish that was the case too, but I feel like at the end of the day, like you have to kind of just accept where you are right now and try to make the most out of it.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like at the end of the day, if I'm the top player in the country, I'm the top player in the country. You maybe wish that Roger Federer was the top player in the country, but like you're stuck with me. No, I was kidding. Okay.
No, but you need to like yeah, you need to work with what you have, and then improve the base you have, and then you're going to get good juniors coming up and things. I mean, it takes time, but it's like that's how you build a culture. Like you build a tennis
Yeah.
culture that way, right? I think it's just like a lot of missed opportunities, and I feel like tennis gets stuck. And I'm getting also increasingly frustrated with this by having like now being more involved in tennis. Is that like you're seeing all these things you can do from a tennis as a sport point of view, but they're not being done, and it feels like it's just like another miss and another miss, and that's where the frustration builds. Because like also I'm talk to player, I mean I have friends who are tournament organizers and stuff like that, and it's like, why do you need to do this, why is not this, why is not that, you know? So it's like it's weird. It's I don't really understand it why it's like this, because look at like paddle and pickleball, they have momentum, but they're actually also using it to try to bring like to make it more engaging and funky. And tennis gets like stuck in this old fashioned approach. I don't know, like too many
Yeah.
old people managing tennis. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it might be on the organizational level, and as I mentioned, with the chicken and egg paradox, like if you
Yeah,
have super big time, like if we had Alcaraz in the country, like maybe it's easier to do marketing and stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like if you're trying to put the responsibility on either the players or the federation, to me, I just feel like kind of more pressure should be on the federation to take the initial step,
of
as
course.
they're, like should be pretty like knowledgeable in the event compared to trying to put that pressure on like a 20-year-old kid that has no idea about anything, pretty much.
And also as a player, you need to focus on playing. Like that's like tennis is difficult enough. Like you need to put. That's why I asked about the YouTube thing, because if you're partly managing your travel schedule and then you have a YouTube channel, and like some top guys, they have like a whole team, you know, but mostly everyone below that level, below like the top 50, you know, they have to do everything themselves. Like you know, I
Yeah.
have friends that like, I mean, Roman here, who Safiulin, who's a friend of mine, like he still like arranges travels. You know, he does that. You know, he's top 50
Yeah.
now, but it's like. And the journey there, it's not easy. Like you're always managing stuff and dealing with things, and you need like a support system, and it's not easy at all. Like and you need to have like some training maybe in how to be an entrepreneur, because that's what you are, and then you have to pay taxes, and there's a lot of things as a player. You grew up playing tennis, that's what you're good at, and then you have all this like a pile of responsibilities added on top that are not easy to deal with, you know.
Yeah. And just, yeah, just talking about the taxes part, like I really feel like that's one thing that's, I could probably guarantee that like 90% of the tennis players out there are not probably not doing everything correctly as they should, or like they just don't know like how it works. Because you go to places and you just get prize money, you put it in your pocket, like you have no clue. And then like technically, I've learned, not the hard way, but I've started to learn more and more, like how you start your own company in Sweden, like you can, like, make the taxes when you're traveling, your on expenses and all these stuff, just to make it the correct way. But because it's obviously like not millions of dollars floating around, most people don't care. You can kind of just getting away with doing it the wrong way. But yeah, at the end of the day, I feel like it should be done correctly. And like, I don't know, it's kind of difficult as a player to try to figure that one out yourself, like everything when it comes to it. And yeah, it's just tricky to
Yeah,
say
it's
the
a
least.
tricky thing. What's been your like highlights in, I mean, positive and negative? Like, I mean, your injuries, if we start there. How many different injuries have you had, and like how have you dealt with them? Like, how tough is it to be injured when when your work is being a tennis player, and also your YouTube is relying on you actually having some nice playing footage? It's easier to sell that video than a video where you're rolling on your ankle on a foam roll,
Yeah.
right? You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like injuries has been really tough. And I feel like I've gone through most of my career like being pretty injury free, so it's coming around to bite me now. Um, but in hindsight, like I'm very frustrated that all my injuries I feel like have been kind of unlucky in a way. like my first one was that I had an issue with my toe. So I twisted my ankle first, and I ended up switching shoes, and I ended up like between my toes, I started like having issues with it, and it became like a wound in between them. And then I constantly like let it heal and stuff, and but it just every time I started playing, it just started hurting like really painfully. And it took me actually 12 months before I finally was like, yeah, this is not work. Like no matter how much I rest, it keeps constantly like really hurting and I can't play. So I ended up going and get like a surgery on it. So they would like cut open the wound and let it re-heal. And that's when they noticed that like the original wound had been like so deep that I got like scar tissue inside of
Mm.
it somehow that was constantly like scratching. So that was kind of the issue with it. But I just feel like as a tennis player, as you say, like your whole work gets so affected by it. And I was constantly like during that 12 months period, it was like very stressful in a way because like it's very easy to get like depressed or something because obviously you feel like you're just standing still, like you want to play, you try to play, and you probably force yourself to play too much than you should. Like during that period when my toe was good, like wasn't good, I was like constantly hoping that like maybe it will be good if I go and play. And I don't know, it's just like a very difficult period, and especially when there's no kind of safety net, as you're pretty much like an independent contractor, playing tennis. Everything kind of just lands on yourself to try to figure something out. And I feel like that's just a very slippery slope. As soon as you get an injury, like I I have a hard time seeing how people don't quit tennis and just start like coaching instead.
Mm.
Because like, and I mean, I was down that road. I had to coach a lot to try to make the bills and everything like that. And yeah, it's just kind of very tricky to figure out a way to make it work. To be honest.
Yeah, I can. I mean, like I know. I'm just like I'm playing 5, 6 times a week. I played some like seniors was supposed to play a senior ITF and stuff. I mean, this is no prize money. This is just, but it's like people are very competitive and there's ranking points and there's some ex players who played futures and stuff like this. And like I have some like inflammation in my foot, so I can't properly play. I can hit the balls, but I can't like play matches. And it's really
Sure.
frustrating. And for me, like I'm testing like my thing is a lot like testing rackets and doing that. And like you get brackets all the time for testing strings, doing content about that. That's my kind of gig. And then if you can't play, you get kind of like, what am I? Okay, what am I gonna do now? Like it's like I can't test this, I can't do this. So you have to find creative solutions. And if you're a player that you're really dying to play, you want to play this tournament, you're planning your year, and you don't know how long it will take to heal it an injury as well because it's tough to know.
Yeah,
It must be
sure.
get pretty dark as well. Like and especially in Swedish winter, it can get extra dark.
Yeah, especially, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just feel like it's tough. And then I finally got back after the surgery, and then 6 months went by, and then I actually played some, I would want to say the best tennis of my life, and won like a local tournament. We had like a money tournament in Sweden. And then the same evening, I played basketball with a friend, and I tore my ligaments in my foot, landing wrong. So then I was out for 3 months after that. Just so it's back to it again. And as you mentioned, like it all kind of started like during the COVID period, that with YouTube and stuff, that tennis constantly has such like a performance pressure,
Yeah.
and obviously like you can't perform unless you play. So it's just like a very slippery slope there, with like bad results and just stressing more tournaments and bad results and stressing and then injuries, and like it's just like with a lot of very slippery things that you can fall into when it comes to tennis. And I guess that's what like also with the YouTube, that I just try to find a way that maybe if I have an audience at the end of the day, like even if I win or lose, if they still cheer me on or like want to watch it, then maybe you could put a little bit of that pressure aside, and so I can just kind of focus on doing the best I can instead, and not worrying too much about like winning or losing all the time. And yeah,
It's tough though because it's so ingrained in your system. Like I think I mean, being a tennis player playing these tournaments and losing like maybe several rounds in a row. Like you lose, you travel to the next country, you lose, maybe next week you lose again, and you have like 3, 4 losses in a row. That's so mentally draining for your confidence. It's so tough to kind of reverse that. And in tennis, on your level where you're playing, it's not going to be an easy match, right? Like that's rare. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, go to Kenya to play like an ITF, you get some
yeah,
wild card in the first round. Okay, you have a easy quality match maybe. But generally, it's quite tough. Like everybody wants to win, everybody's pretty hungry to go for it. So it's tough when you start slipping a little bit with your confidence. I think it's such a mental sport. So then you're all alone, and you're like, what the fuck am I? How am I gonna reverse this trend?
And I feel like pretty like this could be a tip that I could give out. I don't know who for the people maybe watching this, like if it's some like tennis players and stuff. Like one of the biggest like lessons I've learned pretty recently is that obviously like you're a product of your surroundings, and it previously been like you lose a match at a tournament, and then pretty naturally like you maybe have a day off the next day, or maybe you work extra hard or something, or you go home and straight away and stuff like that, and it just kind of magnifies the losses a lot of times. But what I learned, especially from working with my coordinator and stuff, that has a lot of experience coaching people and being a top athlete himself, is just that you go to every tournament planning to win it. And then even if you lose the first round, it doesn't really matter. Like you should still maybe stay the whole tournament out and then maybe try to just get practice matches every day. So you just act like you win the tournament every week. So you still like maybe you lose the first round, but then the next day you play a practice match, the next day you play practice match, and you play it out the whole week. So then you can actually schedule every week like you're winning every tournament. So then you're constantly, kind of bluffing yourself in a way that you're winning every tournament always. But yeah, as I mentioned, if you lose and then you go home straight away, like every time it gets so magnified, all the losses just kind of becomes like, or you hit a brick wall and you just fall down to the ground like every time you lose.
That's actually an interesting tip. Like I guess it's a cost thing for some people staying in a hotel, and
Yeah,
if it's like a costly thing, but if you can afford it and you still need to practice anyway, right? And if you're at a ITF, you're gonna find players to practice a good level, right? So maybe I like the mindset because it's almost like you're simulating a feeling, right? It's almost like visualization drill, almost to be like, okay, I'm here, I'm playing the full week, and it also shows your motivation and your drive. So I think you give yourself like some positive injection of energy, where okay, I'm like taking this seriously. I'm here to learn and to improve and to win the next one. This attitude is cool, right? So I like the idea. I think it makes
yeah.
sense.
And at the end of the day, I think for the most important part, like if you want to climb the rankings, you have to win. You have to win tournaments. Like because the ranking increase is so high that it just comes down to like you have to play every tournament to win, and like I don't know, rather play way fewer tournaments and win them every week, because I feel like there's such a high priority. I constantly kind of have this conversation with a lot of coaches and stuff that they want me to play 40 weeks a year. But to me, it's like, it's not about, or this is what my coordinator, I'm taking his words, to be honest, like, it's not about how many tournaments you play. It's all about how many matches you play. It's about like the majority of, so like if you're winning every tournament, then maybe just playing 15 tournaments or 10 tournaments a year is enough. But if you're losing first round every time, then yeah, then maybe you can play 40 tournaments a year. But it all comes down to how you perform at all these tournaments. And so that's more the priority, just getting the right amount of quantity in there, and then just trying to build on the quality of it all.
Yeah, I think the quality metric is important. Also, not to realize like don't overplay, because that's very easy to, then you're injured anyway, right? So if you're
Yeah,
overplaying, it's not good either. So you have to manage, like, okay, if you say, okay, these are my tournament weeks, and if you lose, you stay to practice, but you're not like traveling or rushing to the next ITF just to play that one, because then it can lead to something. So I think the planning is quite important. You need
yeah,
planning it financially, planning it mentally, so you get proper rest time, and also also recovering your energy, because you can see it now towards the end of the season also with a lot of pros are very tired. It's like this is like it's draining to travel the whole world for like a year, and especially players to play many weeks, and then you're towards the end of the season you're exhausted. So it's probably a good idea to have that really strong focus on the quality. What are you getting out of this week? Even if you lose third round, first round, whatever.
yeah, for sure. Just trying to play like a winner all the time, like, just trying to act like you're winning every tournament and just trying to act like a winner out there, for sure, is one of the keys, I think.
Do you have a coach when you travel, or like you say, coordinated with someone actually helping you with your planning? But do you have like a tennis coach on your
Uh,
team?
s- so this is kind of the funny part. Like, obviously, I've had a lot of coaches that's helped me along the way, but I actually want to say that this guy who actually has zero background in tennis, is probably the best tennis coach I've ever had. And it's just kind of funny because obviously at the end of the day, when you reach a certain level, for sure you have periods where you want to work on technique and like minor details.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, if you want to call it mental, you can call it that. But it's just it comes down to performing. And the official title of my coach, Kalle, is his name, Kalle Engström. He's a like a performance coordinator. So he works with a bunch of different athletes in all kinds of different sports. He comes from like a judo background and wrestling, but he works with athletes like in ice hockey, like some of the absolute best ice hockey players in the world, and multiple like Thai boxing champions and Olympic athletes and stuff. And at the end of the day, when you reach a certain level, it's the same thing, to be honest. Like it's all about performing and how you perform. And then obviously you have like so he works very detailed with like coordination, like what weeks you should break down top to increase and maximize the tournaments and break down weeks and different things like that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to performing and how you perform, it's the same thing no matter what sports you're doing or what kind of thing. Like for example, like my cousin is a professional pianist, and
Cool.
I've had conversations with him, and when we have conversations, when we're talking about like performance anxiety or like pressure and how you focus and how you try to find the right mindset, it's the exact same thing, when he's having a concert. Because I don't know all the ins and outs of piano playing, but like with the pressure you put on
The keys,
the
yeah.
on the keys and like things like that, like obviously all that goes into to his performance. And it's the exact same thing with tennis, like how aggressive you are or how like where your mindset is when you're too up high or too much adrenaline and stuff like that. And it's the exact same thing for all these hockey guys. Like you want to be at the right mindset, to be honest.
No, I think that's a great point. I think and it goes also for work life or careers. If you're trying to build a YouTube channel, if you're trying to improve in business or whatever you're doing, really, it's like that like performance mindset of like planning your week so you actually get a good result, whether it's like a quality of life you want or like time with your family, whatever. But it's like having the right mindset to actually get what you want out of something. I think is, and that's why I think it's getting a little bit more common now that people think about that, because like guys on your level, like you say, I mean, you can have technical improvements here and there or maybe change something, but the most important thing is the mental game and like being ready and having good routines, good habits, sleeping well, eating well, all these kind of fundamentals. Like if you get that right, your right mindset, I think the results will usually come. At least the you will maximize your potential from that.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, I haven't been in the work life too much, but at the end of the day, I feel like that's how all the businesses work, like that you set like a set structure, a system, and you work after that one and trying to maximize, the effort and everything in it. But instead of being so performance based, it just becomes a lot easier to build on it when you have like a system that you're working off constantly and just improving that. And that's really how my coordinator works. Like it's just very clearly and structured, like how we're putting this coming 6 months, so like coming 3 months, and you're just constantly trying to evolve that and make it better. Because obviously he knows that it's not perfect, but he's constantly, striving for that perfection. And I feel like that's where you're just making these major improvements. And yeah, like I've worked with him for the past 2 years, and like I know that I'm like in the best physical shape of my life, and I know that like I'm playing the best tennis of my life, even though my ranking is probably the worst of my life. But that's not where the focus is, because I like it's all about uh yeah, just like maybe it's performance, not results, but like perform. Like I know that like
Yeah,
my level is there, like my yeah. And all that is based off, that we're constantly, doing tests and doing like we have all the stats for it. So it's no like feeling that maybe I'm playing better or I'm not playing better, but we have, like set in stone that you're actually getting stronger, you're getting better. And that's the focus, just trying to evolve and become better. And if you constantly do that, I feel like the results are gonna follow uh on its own.
yeah. If you try, I mean, I think it's like the plan is to trust the process, you do the right things, good things will happen. Like that is generally like I think the best attitude to have in life in general. Like if you build good habits and you try to not make the same mistakes more than twice,
Yeah.
then at least you're building and you're gonna improve whatever it is. Like if it can play piano or it can be play tennis or it could be whatever. I think it's these kind of very small gradual improvements will take you to a good spot. So I think that's a cool idea to work with someone like that instead of maybe just a traditional tennis coach or something. I think it's always good to also think a little bit differently. I think that helps. It's like more like trying to find an innovative approach of addressing the problem, and it's also depending on your personality, of course. Like some people need to have a traveling coach, and some people like working like this, and so it's different on how you are as a person. How did you like in your early days? Like when did you start playing tennis? And was it like a family thing that got into tennis, or was it more like you just found the sport and fell in love?
Yeah, I mean, no one in my family actually plays tennis. My dad's picked it up a little bit in the later days, but it was actually that my kindergarten was right next to a tennis club. And kindergarten, is that right? Like when you're like
Yeah,
three,
yeah,
4 years old? Is that, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Dogs.
daycare maybe.
Yeah,
Daycare
daycare.
might
Yeah.
be that. Yeah. And yeah, what just kind of happened like that, I naturally just found the balls like very intriguing. So I just ended up like holding on to the fence there, wanting to watch more tennis. And with time, I guess my parents just started to give in more and allow me to try it out and different things. And I think I was also very lucky that that club is a very like family friendly club. Like it's kind of in a neighborhood. Like it's literally just two courts, like a very classic kind of suburb tennis club. And during the time that I would usually go by there, like I think the average age of that club is probably like 40s or something like that. And when I would go on like on the way home, there would usually be a lot of the retired people that were just playing tennis and hanging out. And it kind of just became that they started to look after me and just play tennis with me and stuff like that. So I think that's also how I approach tennis today, is that just it's very like it's just so much more than just simply winning or losing matches. It's kind of just a way of life, and I feel like it's just very giving and like family oriented and just like friends and family. Like it's for sure the most important aspect of like the tennis has given me for sure.
What did your family think of your pro push? Like, do they support you a lot, or do they think it's like, oh no, it's so difficult, it's a tough life?
Um, I don't think they've ever really like they always supported me a lot, and like I think from a very young age I always wanted to go to college, and I think they've never really said it outright, but I'm pretty sure that that helped my my side of the want, because I actually got an education as well there. I think
Where
they
did you
maybe
go
had
to college?
so I went to LSU for 2 years and then I
LSU, okay.
transferred to UCSB. So I got my degree from UC Santa Barbara. But I think there maybe it would have been a different conversation if I wanted to go pro out of high school or something. But uh, but yeah, they've been nothing but supportive, and I feel like just having that education made me feel a little more calm that I would figure something out to do with my life. But we'll see what happens with it all.
I think in Sweden, like in general, like the vibe from parents is not that pushy. Like maybe at the detriment sometimes, but it's like they're quite understanding and like, oh, as long as you're happy, it's this like, which is good. I find it quite good instead of having very like you have to play tennis or you cannot play tennis. You have to be an accountant or a doctor or
Yeah,
something. It's like find your path. It's a little bit at least what I've seen in the traditional Swedish upbringing style. It's like I think that's pretty good.
yeah. But like both my parents are though like first generation immigrants, if you want to, and so they've come from like very different cultures. Obviously, like my mom is from China, and then my
Hmm.
dad is from Czech. So I think in our house it's just been a very big combination of everything, to be honest. Like my parents, like they couldn't speak each other's um what we call it original language.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
just ended up like speaking Swedish, and then they kind of like had their own cultures they were bringing in, but then also like trying to embrace the Swedish culture. So it was just a very big mix of, of everything there, to be honest. But I wouldn't have done it any other way.
No, no, and yeah, you have no choice either.
That's true.
No, but
Yeah.
that's cool. I think it's cool to have like different cultures in the household because I mean every family is its own culture, right? You build your own little culture in your microculture as a family, and that's as long as you have something that's positive and you know, but it's a fun mix, you know. It's always good, I think. So what's your plan now? Like from your 2023 is ending soon-ish. You might go to the US. We see what happens. Do you have like a big plans for 2024? Do you have like something laid out, or is that you're gonna be in planning stage, you know, in December, or what's your thinking?
So yeah, it's gonna be in a planning stage for sure. But when it comes to my tennis career as a whole, like I feel like I'm almost starting from ground zero again with my ranking. Like I've almost dropped all my ranking points in singles and stuff. But now my ligaments is starting to get better. I'm pretty much, yeah, like I'm playing unrestricted here now. So that's been my biggest priority, and now I'm starting to feel like I'm getting to the stage where I can actually start like planning on a full schedule. And to me, as I mentioned, I constantly feel like my level is improving, and I'm just getting, yeah, I'm playing the best tennis I've ever played. And for me, it's that constant, you know, just curiosity to see how good I can actually become. Like I have very high ambitions in my tennis game and tennis career, and I just really want to get the opportunity to try, to try the most. So right now, my biggest focus is to try to get the financials and everything together in order to have a full schedule, like
Yeah.
just to play like a full year of tennis, of like unrestricted, like just playing like the schedule as I wanted to play. Obviously making improvements down the line, but yeah, just putting a full schedule together. So that's kind of the absolute main priority. And then obviously like just trying to take a lot of people along for the ride, hopefully, on the YouTube channel, and just trying to build on that, and trying to improve that aspect of it all for sure.
How much does it help? Like you played with Yannick Sinner a while ago and stuff. Like how much does that inspire you when you play like someone who's like top 10 guy in the world and hits the ball unbelievably hard and how much do you grow from such an experience?
No, it's extremely inspiring, for sure, and I think it's also very motivating, in a sense, to just not feel like they're superhuman, in a way. Like I was playing against Sinner, who's an amazing tennis player, but for me, it wasn't like it was a different sport we're playing. Like I felt like I could hang. I'm playing good there. I can for sure compete with him, and I feel like like maybe it sounds cocky, but I don't really see how, like, why I couldn't play as good tennis as he does. Then obviously like it's a whole different ballgame to try to get there. But to me, like it doesn't seem impossible that I can play tennis at that level. So I would say it's a very big like motivational factor for sure, just playing with those guys and feeling like you can hang, and they actually like you have what it takes. And but then it's just like putting everything in order, because obviously like there's a lot of work that needs to be done for that. But now, especially like with my coordinator, like now that I know that like physically and everything I have, like I'm starting to put everything in order that I can actually control. And now it's just kind of putting it all in effect out there, and just seeing how long, like how far it will take me.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's also you have to have that mindset. If you have the mindset that you hit with Sinner and oh no, there's like he's a galaxy away. I mean, it's not good. Like you need to feel that you're hanging with him. I think that is a great thing, and it's also a great thing that you are. But I think like the level difference, there is a difference in levels, but sometimes the level difference is magnified because you know the top guys play mainly top guys and they hang in that kind of stratosphere and you play on a difficult level with you need like a few breaks to get to these kind of types of tournaments. You see it sometimes with players that suddenly they get like some wild card and they start winning these matches that you didn't think they could win, and suddenly they're like top 100. It just happens in 1 year. You had like Karatsev, he did this journey where he was playing challengers
Yeah.
and lower level tournaments, and then 1 year he's just like, oh yeah, this guy is like ultra talented. He can hit the ball. So I think you have to always have the belief that it's there. If you get some lucky breaks, you get through some draws and maybe win some tournaments, you might be up higher. So I think that's how
Yeah,
tennis works.
it's for sure. And as you say, like you're a product of your environment. So like
Yeah.
if you're constantly just playing against future players, you usually kind of just become that. And that's where I feel like my coordinator is so good at, obviously, like from his experience, that what's one of the most important things is that you constantly play against, like trying to push the level up. And that's why, like, before the tournaments here in Portugal, I was actually in Denmark, practicing for 3 days, just like practicing with, yeah, some of the higher level guys there, where I maybe get better sparring that I can get in Sweden consistently. And it's just like he's really opened my eyes to the importance of, constantly pushing those boundaries, and then, like, trying to surround yourself with the people that you want to get to all the time. Because yeah, as you say, like, you constantly play futures tournament, and you just kind of get used to that one. And like, yeah, obviously, like, if I could be around Sinner for a week or so, like, I feel like that would do so much when that level of tennis kind of becomes your reality, or like your normal more and more. Then yeah, it's just so important to try to get that good consistent sparring for sure.
Yeah, like with your environment, that's what you see. Like if you're around smart people or like wise people that are trying to improve themselves and stuff, whether it's tennis players or businessmen or something, you grow because you like it's like you soak up knowledge and you soak up the energy. But if you're with negative people or like it's just that thing, if you have like a lot of negative friends who are just like you feeling like losers in life and stuff, then you get some of that energy. So it's like you have to you're surrounding yourself with the right inspiration is always key.
Yeah, there's always, yeah, but that's the difficult part, though, I guess, just finding the right environment.
Yeah. Yeah, you need
But
to
yeah.
work hard. So what's your plans for the evening? You're gonna how's your food in Portugal? Like how much do you think about your food when you play tennis? Like that's my kind of last
A
question.
lot, like, so I usually have like kind of a diet that my coordinator puts together for me. But when I'm at these tournaments, like, as I'm playing so much tennis, it doesn't really matter too much, because I'm pretty much like constantly on a calorie
Deficit.
deficit.
Yeah.
So so to me, like, yeah, my coach is actually here with me for this week, because he's, especially when it comes to the taping of my ankle, I still need to tape it every tournament. Like, he's, from his background as a wrestler and stuff, he's done his fair amount of taping. But yeah, when it comes to, like, just constantly trying to put calories in my body. Like, before my singles match today, I was in the supermarket with him, as I was getting, like, I had a breakfast and I warmed up, and I was getting a little more like snack, because I was playing like 11 o'clock or 11:30. And I was in there and I was getting like a yogurt and some like muesli bars and stuff like that. And I was kind of joking with him, like, can I just buy a bag of chips? Because he was like, yeah, you need to find, like, you need carbs and stuff. And I was like, can I just get a bag of chips? He's like, I mean, to be honest, you could just eat a bag of chips. It doesn't really matter. Like, if you want to, like, I was just kind of, I didn't buy a bag of chips. But like, yeah, as we're playing so much as we're doing right now, it almost doesn't really matter what we put in our body, to be honest. But
Yeah,
for
it's in
me,
it's,
yeah, but for me, like, I have this strict rule that I've incorporated with my diet, or that he kind of put on me, to be honest, is that when you can eat whatever you want as soon as you finish the diet. So for me, I kind of, like, I actually have like a bag of chips here that I haven't touched for a couple of days, because the fact that I constantly make sure to eat my dinner, and then I eat the bag of chips. But usually after I finish my dinner, because I try to eat so much, I like I have no interest in eating more after. And I feel like the biggest issue when you eat like chips and snacks and stuff like that is that it takes away from you actually having like the appetite to eat the amount of food that you need to eat constantly. So, like, I don't know, just trying to make sure to always eat the snacks after you finish eating what you're supposed to eat helps a lot.
I think that's even a good like if you're trying to reduce weight, it's always good to have like dinner and then if you want a dessert you can have but like the snacking for people general people not like tennis players like it's probably the worst problem. It's like the snacking
Yeah,
in between. So focus on your regular healthy meal hopefully and then you can have a snack if you're still feeling hungry afterwards. I think that's a better
yeah.
sensible idea.
I was doing that when we actually started work, and we had these like very intense couple weeks where I was like just working with him pretty much like 2 or 3 days, 3 times a day. We're just doing different fitness sessions and stuff. And I had this very strict meal plan. And at the beginning, there was just so much food that I just couldn't get it down. And Like I usually maybe like in between I like to eat like peanuts and stuff like that. But it just kind of became that my food became the snacking because I had to like try to get it down. So I was like eating dinner, like I was starting to eat dinner at like 3 o'clock. You know, like like a bite of the dinner, then I have a little more at like 5, and I have some more at like 7. So it just kind of became a, I don't know, just getting better at snacking, to call it that maybe.
And how, I mean, so your food intake is one thing. Like, so how is your sleep when you're traveling different hotels and stuff? How important is that, you feel?
It's huge. Like we measure everything actually. So I like when I'm practicing, I'm playing with a heart rate monitor. Everything's connected straight to his kind of program. I don't understand the program too much. That's his part. And then I also have a watch. I think it's downstairs loading right now, but I have like a Polar watch that I sleep with. So every night I get like my sleep quality. Yeah, so every night I measure my sleep quality, my like it measures ANS, I think, level, like
Yeah.
and then it measures my sleep time, I believe. And yeah, I've actually gotten better like since I started monitoring my sleep. I've constantly, gotten better like noticing like, oh, I felt like I slept good, but it was really bad because I slept in like a really light room and stuff. So I've actually gotten a lot better at just having pitch black when I sleep because I've noticed how much better I actually sleep when it's dark.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how much like it's mental as well, that like when you can see that you slept good, that you feel more awake during the day, or obviously like you should be more rested if you sleep well. Helped a lot for sure. And that was connected, so he gets all that as well, but I don't know how much he does with that, but I just feel like it helps like to track everything and keep, yeah, just try to do what you can, I guess. Sure, thanks a lot for having me, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having another chat pretty soon. As you noticed, I think it's a lot of fun just just chatting about different things here, and I'm sure we're gonna try to do it soon again.
Yeah, for
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
All right,
All right,
man.
man.
Have a
Have a
dinner
dinner
and
and
good luck
good
at
luck at
Vamos
Vamos
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Thanks a lot.